This is the newest 501st Battle Pack, and today marks my round 3 entry for our 501st alternate build competition. And for those of you that aren't aware, this is a competition between me and a few other builders in the community, where we're all competing against each other to see who can make the best alternate build out of the 501st Battle Pack. There are 4 rounds with an increasing number of 501st Battle Packs being used every round, and today we have round 3, so we'll be using 3 sets. But before we dive into round 3, a quick congratulations to Dorian Bricktron for winning round 2 with his combat speeder. I thought my little IES speeder would be quick enough to secure the win, but he had the troops to take us out. But it was a really good build and it definitely deserved the win on that round. But now we're headed to round 3. And our prompt for round 3 is to make a walker. And I gotta admit, as of right now, before actually building the walker, I'm a little scared because I really have no idea how I'm gonna turn these pieces into a good walker. As I've said before, this set has a rather trivial inventory of parts, so when you're making alternate builds, you have to be pretty creative and stretch the parts to the maximum. So as of right now, before building it, I have absolutely no ideas, and that makes me a little worried. But the same thing happened with round 2, I had absolutely no ideas, and then I whipped out the IES speeder, which I think is a pretty solid alternate build. But today, in order to begin round 3, I think I know the perfect place to start. Every walker needs something to make it walk, and that's going to be some legs. And luckily for us, the build right out of the box comes with 4 of these little leg builds. And using 3 battle packs, we're going to have 12 of these little legs. Now of course we can modify the builds and have more or less legs, but it's nice to have a starting point with these 12 right from the set. So the legs give us a starting point, and that covers the walking part of the walker. Now I just need to think of the rest. I guess I'll get back to you guys when I figure that out, but for now I'm just going to hit the drawing board and we'll see what I come up with. And really quickly before we dive into the build, I just want to give a huge thanks to all my patrons. If you guys want early access to any alternate build or mod instructions that I post, you can get them almost 2 weeks early over on my Patreon page. And it's also just a great way to support the builds and the videos that you see on this channel. So after quite a bit of brainstorming and a lot of trial and error, I think I've landed on a final product that's pretty Star Wars-y, and I think you guys are going to love it. This is the AT-LCT, the All-Terrain Low-Crawling Transport. This is a small but mighty 4-legged walker that's heavily inspired by the AT-TE and the AT-OT. However, the AT-LCT itself specializes in troop transport, but it does come with an optional top cannon if you want some more firepower. I've got quite a bit of lore made up for this build and how it fits into the Star Wars universe and the Republic Army, but we're going to save that for the end of the video. So make sure you stick around to hear all that, or you can use the chapters down below. But the AT-LCT, as said, is a troop transport walker that does come with an optional top cannon for some more firepower. This entire top cannon build is easily removable, being only connected with 3 studs with 2 on one side and then 1 on the other. And this turret is a little bit fragile, so you do have to be a bit delicate with it, but once you put it on the set and you learn that, you'll figure out how to navigate around it. But I suppose we're starting this review with the top of the walker and the turret itself. So up top, as you can see, we have one spot for a gunner up top. He's protected by some curved armor panels on either side with these tooth pieces to give him a little bit of armor down the front. And then on either side, we have some Republic insignia sitting right above the main cannons for this turret. And the barrels for the cannons are made out of a variety of Technic pieces, with these long red Technic pins going down the middle to make up the main structure of the cannon. But because I don't like the color of the red Technic axle, I decided to cover it up with a variety of these gray pieces. And then just underneath the cannon itself, we have the supports that actually holds the cannon up. And as you can see, it's just made out of a variety of hinge plates. And to attach this top cannon to the walker, you'll notice these empty studs on either side. That's where you can attach the cannon. Now that we have this top cannon attached, the walker has a lot more firepower, and then it's got a larger profile as well. I have a feeling some of us are going to be pretty split on whether or not we like the walker with or without the cannon, but luckily it's easily removable, so we don't have to worry. But for the sake of this review, I'm going to go ahead and remove it, and then we'll move on to the bottom of the walker with its legs. So with the top cannon and some of the troops inside removed, we can go ahead and get a better look at the 4 legs that are on the bottom of this walker. So the 4 legs of this walker are made out of those bricks that have the bars sticking out of the side, and then these clip pieces. I'll go ahead and remove one of the legs and we can get a better look at it. So we can see that we have those pieces with the bars sticking out of the side, like I said, and then we have the main connections with the clips on either side, one being on the foot and then one being on the main connection that connects to the walker. I gave each foot a large footprint using these large rounded bricks and then these inverted angled pieces on the bottom. And then I put these tooth pieces facing up so that the walker's legs can't bend too far back and it won't sit too far down to the ground. And then for a little bit of detail, I have one girl piece on the front with some dark red Republic red on the sides. And you might have noticed that these legs actually have blasters clipped onto them. And these blasters aren't actually attached to the vehicle permanently. These are blasters that are put in here by troopers. Because this walker sits so close to the ground, I thought we could work in some weapon clips on the bottom, so when troopers are engaged in combat, they can quickly grab their blasters and then get going. Now on your walker, if you want to make these blasters controlled by the pilot and have some leg weapons, you can totally do that, but in my model, I like to think that the troopers just run up and grab the blasters off the walker. And then just in between the legs here, I decided to fill it out with a little bit of greebling using some leftover Technic pieces. Using these tubes and then that bar piece in the middle, it just looks like a little bit of industrial piping detail. And then that's of course present on both sides, and then even on the underside, on the belly of the walker, I decided to use these little minifigure dividers as some extra detail down here. Now I know it doesn't provide much, but I do like my models to be pretty from all angles, and I do like to work in greebling where I can, so I'm pretty happy that I put this down here. But other than that, on the underside, there's not really much to go over. All the leg builds are the exact same, so there's not really anything different going on. As we move on to the front though, we get onto the main cannons controlled by the pilot. Now we of course had that large cannon on top, but that's not controlled by the pilot. I wanted to give him a few weapons to defend himself when he's controlling this walker, so I mounted these two light blasters on the chin. A simple little build just using two bar pieces lodged into some studs on a bracket. But then just above these light blasters, we have the two side struts that make up the cockpit window. And each of these side strut builds are just made up of a variety of hinge plates that allow it to sit at that perfect angle that lines up with the side armor plating here. And speaking of this side armor plating, you can see I used a variety of wedge plates and then a ton of slope pieces to give it plenty of armor. And then I of course had to toss a few Republic insignias on the walker itself, so we used more of those printed backpack tiles on the front here. And then to give our driver a little bit of a side view, I decided that this hinge plate and the empty space it leaves is a tiny bit of a side window. So the driver of the walker is mainly looking at the front, but he does have two small windows on the side to look out of. And getting our driver out of there, we can get a better look at the cockpit, and unfortunately this set doesn't come with any control panel pieces, so without using extra pieces, which we can't for the competition, I couldn't work in any actual controls. But I do have these grill pieces on either side that are meant to emulate some control panels. But then moving on from the front, we can move down the side of the walker to get a better look at the armor plating that protects all the troops. Using a bunch of tiles and slope pieces to build up the armor plating, and then we have some wedge plates that builds up toward the rear to protect this rear gunner. Here we have one rear gunner position that can sit one gunner that controls these two rapid fire heavy blasters to cover the rear of the walker in combat. Because the walker and the troops are so exposed on the inside, it needed some kind of defense on the backside in case the walker got ambushed. So I decided to slap these two heavy blasters on the back here and then see one minifigure just behind them. Now on top of being a gunner position, the backside of the walker does actually open up. So I didn't really design it to do this, but if you'd like, your troopers can now exit and enter the walker through the rear here. And then once you have all the troopers loaded into the walker, you can close up the backside and now you have your gunner position ready to go. But then besides the rear gunner position, there's not really much to go over on the walker besides the inside, and there's not really much going on in here. I purposely left in a ton of empty space so we can fit in the maximum amount of troops for this transport walker. With the top cannon attached and all these troopers in the transport area holding their blasters, including the gunners, this walker holds 8 clones. Now with the top cannon attached, it does become quite a bit harder to access your clones on the inside, so I'd go ahead and remove that whenever you want to move around the clones in the transport area. And with that, that pretty much covers the entire AT-LCT. Before we head into an outro, let's go over a little bit of the competition information and then some of the lore behind this walker. So for round 3, after all of our builds are published, LEGO Men 360 is going to have an overview video on his channel that showcases all of our builds. And then around that same time, we're going to publish a poll over on Brickular Bricks community tab where you can vote for your favorite build. So make sure you've got notifications turned on so you don't miss out when that poll goes live and you can vote for your favorite build. I'll of course have all my fellow competitors' videos linked in the description down below as they become available. But now with the competition information out of the way, let's go over the lore behind this walker. This walker was designed as a joint effort between Kuat Drive Yards, who made the AT-OT, and then Rothana Heavy Engineering, who made the AT-TE, with obvious inspiration taken from both of those vehicles. But the ATL-CT is a small AT-series transport walker that was meant to be deployed into heavy and tight environments where the AT-TE and the AT-OT simply couldn't navigate. And that's why this top cannon is optional, because if this walker is meant to go into tight environments, you don't want a super tall cannon sticking out of the top, so it's purely up to the commander that's deploying these whether or not they want to attach this extra firepower. And that's pretty much all the lore that I have for this build. Let me know if you have any other ideas for it down below. I'm really digging the design and the idea of the ATL-CT, so I definitely want to see it in a bigger scale in the future. Let me know what you thought of this build and this video down below. If you want to build your very own ATL-CT, you can get instructions on my Patreon page right now. And if you need to pick up a few more 501st battle packs in order to build this ATL-CT, consider using my affiliate link down below to purchase them. And as always, feel free to leave your alternate build and mod suggestions in the comments down below. Other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Peace, fellas.